You're a petty, thuggish tyrant. What do? Well, you come in and you act like a dictator, authoritarian, and then you have retribution against people who you think did you wrong, even though rally he lost the 2020 election, but all you heard is retribution. Donald Trump has been targeting law firms. He's been targeting other organizations. Now he's going after ActBlue. And so he's been signing these ridiculous, frankly, immoral and illegal executive orders. And he's now asked the Department of Justice to investigate ActBlue under the guise of they could be getting foreign money from sources. Now, this is the same person who's going to have a dinner at the White House for people who donate to his fake BS coin. And a lot of those people are anonymous donors, foreign entities. You have a foreign government that said they're going to spend $2 billion on his coin as well. So if anybody is actually getting money from foreign sources, that is Donald Trump. But what we keep seeing is, again, it's attack on various institutions, because what he desires to do, and this is the most important thing, what he desires to do is to tear down institutions. So you see the attack on the Kennedy Center, you see the attack on museums, you see the attacks on Harvard and Columbia and other institutions. And so he is all about going after these institutions. And so if you're going to attack somebody, then you want to weaken them. You want to bring them to their knees. That's what he did with these law firms. And so you had several of the world's companies, America's largest law firms, literally cut deals with him to do pro bono work for him. And then he's now going to use them to do his dirty work. Well, folks are fighting back. And ActBlue is one of those institutions that is fighting back. Joining us right now in studio is Regina Wallace. She is the CEO, president of ActBlue. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
But first off, for people who have no idea, what is ActBlue?
ActBlue is a digital fundraising platform. We were founded in 2004, so we are 21 years old. We have moved just under $17 billion for Democratic candidates, progressive candidates, and aligned causes.
So hold on, before you continue, stop right there. It's not just for candidates.
No.
So perfect example, last night we had the group Common Defense on the show. Mm-hmm. And then when you pull up their website, that's under ActBlue. When Black Lives Matter, when they were on talking about the documentary, they use your platform.
100%.
So it is a fundraising platform for politicians, but also organizations.
That's right, Color of Change. There's a number of organizations that are cause-oriented. They hook into the political process in some way because they're driving movements, right? But they also raise on ActBlue.
Okay. Now, they're also, so is ActBlue one entity, or
no,
so explain that.
All right, so we've got a PAC, our Political Action Committee, that is basically a conduit account to receive political donations and to move those to political candidates. We have a 501c3, ActBlue Charities. That would be the banner under which 501c3s would be raising, and we conduit those funds to 501c3s. And then we have 501c4, ActBlue Civics. That would be the banner under which C4s would raise, and then we channel money there. So.
Now, right-wingers can't stand that, but I ought to have to remind people, the NRA is set up the exact same way. The NRA has a political arm. Then they also have a arm where they actually teach firearm training to young folks around the country. And so I remember I was debating Joe Scarborough when he had his first show on MSNBC, and he was just really angry and upset with the NAACP on something. And I was like, Joe, I'm sorry, if it's good enough for the NRA, why can't other groups do it?
100%.
And that's the thing that folk don't talk about, that the law allows for an organization to have different entities for different purposes.
Correct. And not only is that true for ActBlue, that is also true for WinRed, which is a platform used for Republican candidates. The key difference between the two of us is that we are older. We're 21 years older. They're 6 years old.
Well, they were actually launched because of the success of ActBlue.
They're exactly a replica, with the one key exception being that we are a nonprofit and they are a for-profit, which means that they take their money and distribute it out to whomever, God knows, we circulate money back into the democratic ecosystem and maintain a transparent posture throughout. So not only is it good for Democrats, but apparently it's also Democrats and progressives, but it's also quite good for Republicans. So good that they copied us.
So here's what is really interesting. So go to my iPad. And so this is the executive order, investigation into unlawful straw donor and foreign contributions in American elections. Okay, so he's directing the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to investigate ActBlue. Now, here's what we know, which is not hard to figure out. There's a guy named Dinesh D'Souza, who was convicted of straw donations. There are numerous other people who have been convicted. So this idea that you don't have prosecutions for straw donors is a lie.
Correct.
So what do you make of this so-called memorandum?
Well, so thank you for making it clear that it's a memorandum and not an executive order. We were actually heartened by the reality that this is not an order to do anything, but just a memo to the Attorney General to look into ActBlue and other fundraising platforms. We are, of course, because we are such an honest, secure, reliable platform and organization, we, of course, welcome the looking into the organization. At the same time, we know that we have nothing to hide. And have never had anything to hide. We've always taken the posture that if you're curious about what's going on with ActBlue, we share.
Well, here's what I think is funny in his memo, Anthony, on my iPad. He said a recent House Representatives investigation revealed that a platform named ActBlue had in recent years detected at least 22 significant fraud campaigns, nearly half of which had a foreign nexus. Then it says during a 30-day window during the 2024 campaign, the platform detected 237 donations for foreign IP addresses using prepaid cards, indicating that this activity remains a pressing concern. First, y'all detected that.
Correct.
So if y'all detected that, that means y'all have systems in place to detect that to prevent the law from being broken.
100%.
So why in the hell does that need to be an investigation when y'all literally told on yourself like, yo, we found some stuff?
Correct. So putting this all in context, ActBlue has processed over 300 million transactions in our lifetime. So when we're talking about 22, even 237, the relative scale of that is approaching zero. Having said that, we have such strong fraud systems in place because we know that this is a sacred process that we are overseeing.
Also,
as
y'all
an
not trying to break the law.
We're not trying to break the law, and actually we disclosed what we found and also the methods that we used to help make sure that those transactions were rejected. We've been incredibly good about that. We always have been.
Since he published this silly memo April 24th, have y'all heard from the DOJ?
No.
So this is, we don't know what the hell this is. Let me go to my panel for questions. Joe, you first.
Thank you so much for all the wonderful work that you're doing. And even as you deal with this, you guys are going to go through your paces and do the things that you need to do. Talk about what ActBlue is doing. People need to know about ActBlue. For all of us that do know, there's still those of us that don't know, and a lot of people have given to ActBlue or given to candidates through ActBlue without knowing it. Tell us about the next frontiers and what ActBlue is doing, because obviously they're copying it over there when read because of how successful ActBlue has been.
Correct. So thank you for naming just the sheer number of donors that give on the ActBlue platform. There are over 28 million donors that have given on this platform. So we think it is of supreme importance that we get the message out to our donors. Having said that, let me just offer that for 21 years, we have taken the posture that we are plumbing. We really do try to center candidates and causes and make sure that everything works perfectly seamless in the background. So the reason why you would have never heard from ActBlue until now is because we have designed ourselves to be the effective, and when I say effective, I mean most effective platform in the space, and have done that silently.
Yeah, it's basically like if I go buy something from Fanatics, I don't know who the hell handles the transactions in the back end. I'm just trying to buy the damn hat.
Correct, right? And the only time that you ever hear about things like this is when there are breaches, when there are things, and we try to make sure that none of that is happening. The reason why we're being so vocal now is because the attack is so politically clear, and our silence actually has made people feel like we have something to hide.
Works against you.
Exactly. So we are coming out to say we are here. We have no intention of being shut down. There's no path to shutting ActBlue down, and also to give our donors who are giving to campaigns and causes and our candidates and causes themselves assurance that we have the right structures in place to make sure that we are protected and ready to fight, and also to make it clear that we are the most trusted platform, period, and bar none.
How large is your organization?
We are just under 300 employees.
Okay. Based in D.C.?
We are spread all over the country, which makes it perfect for our mission because the mission is being executed all over the country. So we are fully remote, 300 employees doing the good work of making sure that fundraising for Democrat and progressive candidates and causes works and works well.
Nola?
So thank you so much for all the work that you do. Definitely, I know that my name will pop up in ActBlue.
Woo!
So I do, I have a question. In the midst of all of this, do you think that by you being Black and a woman and at the helm, that also has something to do with the attack against ActBlue?
Listen, I would be dishonest with the public and myself if I said that the main reason why President Trump, Congress, and anyone else who has come after ActBlue has come after ActBlue because I am a Black woman who is the CEO. The reality is that when we look at our stats next to Win Red, they raised $1.8 billion last cycle. We raised $4.7 billion last cycle. We have 300 employees. They have less than 50. We've been around for 21 years. They've been around for 6 years. And the ultimate conclusion from all of this is because we've been doing it longer, we've perfected our craft and are therefore more effective. What they're attacking is our efficacy. That I happen to be a Black woman who is the CEO of the organization is a gift because history makes us a little bit more courageous and a little bit more resilient, which puts me in a fighting stance, not just for ActBlue, but for all Democrats, progressive causes, and candidates who need us to be vocal so that we continue to have the incredible infrastructure that has led to victories time and time again.
Greg?
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Sister Wallace, for all your work and for being a standard, setting a standard and maintaining it. And I want to kind of continue in the vein of what Dr. Nola just raised and ask you about what candidates, what political organizers, what folks engaged in electoral politics need to be doing now in terms of taking that very offensive that you named. Thinking about Judge Beryl Howell last week, who stopped this absurd executive order against Cole Perkins, the law firm. And the judge is saying now, y'all don't need to unilaterally disarm. You have a First Amendment right. And in that 102-page decision, Judge Howell repeating over and over again, frequently quoting Trump's own statements, his absurdist statements. I'm thinking about that in terms of you all's efficacy, as you say, and the success. Do you think that these Republicans have overplayed their hand? I mean, there's news now that they may be considering Jeanine Pirro to be the top lawyer here in D.C., prosecutor in D.C., the absurdist stuff that keeps going over and over again. And in response, rather than playing defense and crouching in a defensive posture and trying to justify our existence, maybe going on the offense and saying we have a First Amendment right, and not only let's fight it out, but we're going to punch you dead in your face and find out that the billionaires have been funding you, are in fact now a little scared now that you're wrecking the market, and that there are more of us than there are more of you. How important is it for ActBlue and for other advocacy groups to really go on the offensive at this point and using constitutional rights, just go after this whole conversation to change it for the better?
So let me just step back for a minute and say that in the first quarter of this year, ActBlue moved almost double its forecast for dollars raised on the platform. That was happening well before we were specifically centered and targeted by President Trump. So already the resistance that is happening at this time is growing and moving donations up, to move missions forward, to move candidates forward, et cetera. Following the specific attack by President Trump, and to answer your question about overplaying hand, what we found was that those who were raising on the platform started to talk about ActBlue in their raise, started to share that we were being attacked and that they wanted to fight for and with us. And what happened then was that even more donors started to give. So this is probably having the reverse effect of what they thought it would have just from a donation and fundraising perspective, because it has emboldened donors and also entities to not just stand by us, but to give more than they would have otherwise been giving at this time. The thing that I want all of us to continue doing is raising for the candidates and the causes that we care about, right? That's the way to offset this. And know that ActBlue only receives 1% of any donation. So if you've given $50, we're going to see 50 cents. The thing that keeps ActBlue going.
You kind of got to pay for the stuff.
We got to pay for the. We got to pay
the
for
infrastructure.
That's right. And the thing that actually is a bigger contribution to ActBlue that most people don't recognize is that 57% of what makes ActBlue work is tips. 57% of the operation is supported by tips. So these are two important things that you can do, but if you can't do any one of those things at all, right? Because we know that not everybody has the ability to give dollars. Be vocal, because what we know in this moment is that courage is being rewarded. And by being courageous ourselves, we are giving permission for everyone else to be courageous with us, if that means making a social post, if that means being an amplifier for the messages that we are under attack, if it means being an amplifier for democracy itself being under attack. These are all important actions that we can all take to make sure that we strengthen and embolden ourselves and move ourselves forward to change this conversation and also to change the constructs of power in this democracy.
So the House Republicans sent you this cute little letter on April 2nd, wanting you to preserve all kind of documents, all sort of stuff. They complained that that people left your organization. Oh my goodness, you only have one lawyer left. There's all kind of stuff along those lines. I love this here. They said the growing pattern of volatility and toxicity stemming from ActBlue's current leadership and the kneecapping of ActBlue's legal team may be hindering ActBlue's ability to comply with federal election law. That was pretty. Then they said, ActBlue's union reportedly told the company that those of us who work with our legal team in our day-to-day do not have clear direction on how to proceed with our work in their absence.
So let me just back up a second and say a couple of things. The first is, we have a retention rate or an attrition rate of 10%, right? As a technology company, and I've spent almost 30 years in tech attrition tends to look closer to 22 to 25%. So that we typically are at 10% is actually quite good.
Right.
10% of a loss of an employee base of 300 people would look like 30 people. When I joined ActBlue, I had to shrink us down because we had gotten too large. At that time, we actually shared publicly that we were reducing, and it was heartbreaking, but had to reduce by 54 people just because we had grown too large. 54 people did not make the news. 7 people made the news, right? Which is interesting and also not interesting at all. It is not unusual after you suffer big defeats in an election like 2024 that a handful of people look around and ask themselves, am I doing the right thing?
Right,
Not only that.
And the New York, and part of the issue, the New York Times called this, you face internal chaos.
Right, I mean, this naming is interesting, but I stand by the idea that losing 7 people is healthy, especially at a time when we are growing and moving into a different arc of existence as an organization. It calls for different talent. And while I am grateful for every leader that has taken the time to serve at ActBlue, because it is not easy, those who run movement organizations know that in the presence of unions, in the presence of all the other things that make mission organizations move, that you do have a careful set of things that you are walking as a leader to make it all make sense. And also, we are healthy, we are coursing and vital and vibrant, and are going to continue to do the great job that we're doing.
All right, then. Well, we'll certainly be following this and see what happens. His memo calls for some report 180 days.
Correct,
or something
to the
along
Council
those
of
lines.
Presidents.
So we'll see what happens. Well, Regina Wallace Jones, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.